Hello. Welcome back to the podcast season 2. Season 2, baby. I am so happy, so happy you are here and so happy to be recording this for you guys today. I have done a lot of deep thinking and goal setting and planning and refining in the first week now of the new year. And when I tell you guys that I've never been so clear on the direction I'm going, where I want to take my business, where I'm trying to take my personal life, Cole and I being on the same page, things are just feeling so incredible. And I wanted to record an episode today talking about this idea of a soft girl era, or this idea of a soft life, and why I personally think a lot of people take it either too far or the wrong direction. And what I mean by that is having a soft persona, or being soft and in your feminine, or just being in that soft girl era doesn't have to mean being walked all over or having no standards. And if you're in business, this is important very specifically for you, because softness without standards just turns into fully being self-sabotaging. So this episode is for the woman who wants peace, spaciousness, a softer life, but might also be feeling a little bit overwhelmed or stretched too thin or resentful because you're doing too much. You're saying yes to too many things, too many people. And the truth that no one says out loud is that you can be kind and soft and feminine and loving and welcoming without being a welcome mat or a doormat for people to walk all over and use. You have to find this balance between being soft and being kind, but also having boundaries and taking no shit. So let's start out by redefining what soft is. It's not passive. It's not available always, whenever, to whoever, for whatever reason. It's not saying yes even when you don't want to. It's not completely throwing away your boundaries. It's not avoiding discomfort because you just want this soft life. It's not choosing not to work hard simply because you're in your soft era. No. Soft, for me, and hopefully for the women here listening to this episode, means to be regulated, to be intentional with your time, your energy, the people around you, your circle, your life, to be selective in the people you allow into that life, and to be rooted in your purpose, to be rooted in self-trust and loyalty to yourself and to your ultimate mission before you're loyal to the demands of others. And I don't want us to get in this trap of thinking that soft is a personality trait, because it's not. A soft life is the result of a structured life. A soft life is the result of a life with boundaries. A soft life is the result of some rigidity in other areas, if we're being honest, okay? So I think why so many women confuse softness with avoidance is because instead of saying, I want less burnout, I want, escape from a little bit of responsibility or a little bit of demands that people are asking of me. I want the permission to disengage from something that I don't feel is fulfilling me or my purpose anymore. Instead of saying that, they say they want a soft life. But in reality, they just don't know how to say no, or they don't know how to level up from where they're at in a way that doesn't create more burnout, right? So a lot of us use this soft life as an excuse because we're like, oh, my business isn't going how I want it to go. I just had a child, or my child just turned 5. Maybe I don't have a toddler anymore. They're growing up. And so I just want this soft life. It's fine. It has nothing to do with that. I'm just entering my soft girl era. When in reality, what they're saying is, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm in this new season of life. I either just had a baby or my baby's not a baby anymore. Whatever the transition season is, what they're saying is, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know how to maneuver this, and I'm just gonna give up and call it a soft life, when really it's a cop-out. And what that does is it creates weak boundaries, it creates financial instability, it can create even more exhaustion than before, because imagine how tired you are when you're grinding towards your goals and grinding to be a badass mom and an incredible wife and an available daughter and an available sister or whatever, right? Imagine how tired you are when that is the case, but you're fulfilled. Even though you're tired, you might be a little burnt out, you're fulfilled because you are walking in your purpose. right? Imagine how tired you're going to be when you're still running and running and running and grinding for all of these things, but you're not fulfilled or rooted in your purpose. You're not working towards anything. So it kind of feels like stagnation. You're going to be even more tired because you don't have anything pouring back into yourself. And I'm not saying that your business is your only purpose, because in my life, my purpose is to expand my family and to expand God's kingdom and to pour into others and to mentor and to uplift people and to hopefully teach people, and also to do my business, and also to make money, and also to create an exciting financial future for my family, right? Like, for sure. But I also have, these other purposes in life as just a woman and a child of God. So if you're getting burnt out and you're feeling overwhelmed, instead of saying, I need to adjust where I'm spending my energy, I need to adjust what's happening so I can get away from this burnout, I need to say no to more things. Instead of saying that, they're just turning around and saying, to hell with it all. I want a soft life, which means nothing. I'm just not going to go towards it at all. And of course, this can look many different ways. In some instances, a soft life that is a result of setting those boundaries can be saying no to more things, can be maybe leaving a job or quitting a business or whatever. It can be sometimes, but we have to make sure that we differentiate if we're leaving as a cop-out and calling it a soft life, or if we are setting boundaries to be more intentional where our purpose is fully being fulfilled. And that's the hard part, because we see this like soft life, whatever, all over the place. And underneath all of that, underneath the facade that people put on social media, a lot of it is a cop-out. So today we're going to talk about how to build standards and how to create standards in, your life, for your fitness, for your business as a mother. We're going to talk about how to do that so that you can in turn have a soft life, but a strong backbone. Because what I don't want to see is us going towards this soft life that, yes, absolutely is so desirable. I want it too, and I'm working towards it. And that's a really big goal of mine for 2026, which is what brought all of this up. I want a slower pace of life. That's why we moved to Wyoming. I want a softer life. I want to be more in my feminine. And in doing so, I have to create more boundaries so that I have more time to be intentional with A, running my business, B, being a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, but then C, also pouring into myself and saying no when it needs to be said so that I have the time for all of those things. So let's talk about the standards that are going to kind of like be this backbone for your launch into the soft girl era, okay? So we're tying this directly into everything that I always talk about, brand, body, bank account, okay? We're going to tie it into every single aspect. So let's start with your body. In your body, what are the standards and the boundaries that we need to have in order to propel us into this soft girl era, right? We need to have non-negotiable routines. We need to have morning routines, nighttime routines. Obviously, it's not always going to look the same if you guys are mothers, okay? So of course, adapt and adjust like we do, but we need nutrition that supports our energy levels. We need nutrition that supports our goals. We need movement that not only helps our body last longer, longevity, but also that builds resilience. What does that mean? We need to start doing functional movements. As we age, it's about aesthetics. We all want to look good, feel good, whatever, perform well, but what it's really about is, can you pick your kids up off the ground? Can you run with your kids when they're outside, playing? Can you keep up with them? Do you have enough energy to make it through the end of the day when you guys are out and about on the weekends? That's what movement is important as we age. So softness in your body comes from discipline. Being able to feel regulated in your nervous system and at home in your body comes from discipline. Because if you're not feeling at home in your body because you're constantly eating out, you're indulging, you're never focusing on nutrients, you feel like crap, then you're never going to feel at home in your body. You are always going to feel foreign. So this is a perfect example of where a boundary or a little bit of rigidity can lead to softness, can lead to feeling at home and comfortable in your body and regulated in your nervous system. So the second one we're going to talk about is branding, okay? So what are these boundaries and standards that you need to have in your brand on social media for your business? Well, you need to have clear messaging. You need to know exactly who you're talking to. You need to know exactly who you're not talking to. Who are you not meant for, and who do you not want to attract? When I first started social media, I wanted everyone to follow me. I was like, I got to get as many followers as possible because that's how these girls are making money. That's how they're getting brand deals. That's how they're getting rich. That's what I need. And what I realized is that when you're chasing everyone, you attract no one because you're unclear on who you are for and who you are not for. When you start to set that boundary and have a little bit of rigidity and be like, no, actually there are some people that I'm not looking to attract, then you start to attract more of the right people. Okay, another way that rigidity leads to abundance or soft life. And then the next thing is not over-explaining yourself. Online, in person, whatever. In regards to your brand, not over-explaining yourself. Branding, the very basis of branding is perception. Straight up and down perception, right? Your brand is only what other people perceive it as. You could be projecting something, but if other people aren't receiving it that way, then to them, your brand is something completely different. So make sure that you know who you're showing up as, how you want it to be received, and then don't over-explain that. Because the people who are meant to be there will receive it how it's meant to be received. The perception will be aligned with the ultimate goal of the brand, of the business, of your social media, and boom, you're attracting all the right people. The third one is your bank account. This is pretty black and white of ways that rigidity and boundaries create more of a soft life, more security, more abundance, right? So saying no to misaligned opportunities, saying no to things that just don't make sense. If you have to spend money and it doesn't make sense, it's not filling your cup, adding to your life, or adding to your bank account or your business, I don't know about y'all, but in 2026, I'm not taking part in it then. So saying no to misaligned opportunities is going to save you money and create more freedom and security in your bank account. Pricing that protects your energy. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business girly, pricing that protects your energy. I one time had a mentor tell me that if you don't want to do something, you're not charging enough for it. So this is a really big tip for you guys who set your own prices. Make sure that you're competitive. Make sure that your services or your product is reflective of what you're charging. But also make sure that you feel good about what you're getting for what you're putting in. The quickest way to burnout and the quickest way for you to not enter that soft life and for you to constantly feel like you need to hustle is unaligned pricing or selling yourself short, giving too many discounts. You can and should absolutely say no to some people. You can and absolutely should turn people away if they do not fit what you are trying to do in your business and in your brand. If someone can't afford you, that's on them. That's not a you problem. That's on them. As long as, once again, you are providing services and products that are aligned with what you're charging. So back to what my mentor said. I was telling her that there was this one service that I had on my offer suite that I absolutely hated. I was like, I dread when people book me for this. And she's like, well, what amount could you charge that would make you no longer dread it? Like, if you hate it that much, charge more for it and maybe you'll stop hating it. Or maybe the money will be so good that it will kind of just do away with some of that dread, right? And I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So I increased the price, less people booked it, which made me less resentful, and the money was well worth it. So then I was like, okay, cool. Now when people book it, it's not as often and it's 100% worth it. So now I feel no more resentment. And that's exactly what you guys should do. If there is something specifically in your offer suite that you hate or that you dread doing, it's probably because energetically it doesn't feel good. You're spending way more than you're getting back. And at the end of the day, this is a business. And if the ROI doesn't make sense, change it. And the last thing is your peace. And my favorite quote ever is, peace is expensive. Your standards are how you afford it. Your boundaries are how you afford it, which is perfectly in line with our bank account conversation right now, right? Peace is expensive. Your standards are how you afford it. Peace is expensive. Your standards are how you afford it. Just repeat that over and over and over and over again, because that's stuck with me for life. It is stuck with me for life. I can never unhear that saying. So again, you can see how, when you focus on these different sections of your life, your body, your brand, your bank account, let's add some things, your family, your relationships, your character, your time. In every single section, every single category of your life, there is a way where rigidity and boundaries and standards will lead to a more soft, flowy, and aligned life. And if you guys know me, hearing me talk like this is probably, you guys are probably like so taken aback. You're like, this is very woo-woo for Bailey. It's not, because when I say energy or I say abundance or I say, stuff like that, like all of that for me comes from God. And so now let's move into what it actually looks like if we don't implement these things, right? What does it actually look like? How do we know if we're actually being rigid and setting these boundaries? If you are also on this side of the Instagram or TikTok algorithm where you're constantly seeing this soft girl era, you're constantly seeing this soft life, a few phrases that you'll probably hear a lot are, I'm just protecting my peace. I don't want the pressure. I'm just being gentle with myself. I'm just saying no more, which is great. All of those things are absolutely valid, and you should be doing those things. Protecting our peace, absolutely. We should be saying no to more things that don't align, absolutely. But without standards, those things turn into procrastination, avoidance, no follow through, no growth, resentment towards things that you could have done but never tried, or things that you quit too early, or things that you copped out on. So softness doesn't mean no structure. Softness is a result of structure, and it means the right structure. So how do we take this shift and still go towards this soft life and still be in our feminine as entrepreneurs? Because let me tell you, as an entrepreneur, especially as an entrepreneurial woman, it is freaking hard to be in your soft era. It is freaking hard to be in your feminine, because we are always like hustle, grind, let's go, goals, growth, like that is our vibe. And I love that. Like I'm very much like a hustler and I love the grind, but I want to implement boundaries to where I'm not feeling like I have to grind all the time, or I can grind more intentionally and live a softer life outside of business. So what I've noticed is that I've spent a lot of years in the grind, and this personal shift that I've seen that I really want to help you guys achieve as well is that because of the grind and because of the hustle and because of the very strict boundaries that I have set in my life, because one thing about me is I've never been bad at setting boundaries. I used to be a people pleaser for a little bit, I guess, but in business, I've never had a hard time with the grind. I've never had a hard time with hard work or work ethic or being a self-starter. But now that I've spent so many years in the grind, I'm starting to see how I could be more intentional with it to allow for more room for other things in my life. And that's what I want for you guys. So my soft life didn't come before the standards. The standards and the boundaries and the hustle and the grind has existed for years for me to now turn around and say, okay, how can I do this more intentionally? And you don't have to have the years of that. As long as you have the intentional time of that while you're entering your soft girl era, or maybe you're exiting a soft girl era and you're like, okay, I want to keep some of that in some life, but I also need to figure out my grind. This is also for you, right? So softness didn't come before the standards. Softness came because of my standards and boundaries. And my calmness and my nervous system regulation and getting out of my adrenal fatigue and getting out of fight or flight and fixing my anxiety issues, all of that came from just having stricter boundaries and a little bit more rigidity in my life. It's one of those things where it's like my life got softer because my backbone got stronger and I was able to say no to more things. And that, as a woman, is a tool and a skill that I recommend every single person start to try and develop and refine. Saying no and not over-explaining your no. Not over-explaining why you can't do something for someone, or why you can't show up for someone at this time, or why your calendar is just closed that day. Why you will not accept calls that day. That's something that I've really had to work with in my mind, right? It's just these small little things that we can just get a little bit better at, refine a little bit more, skills that we can get 1% better at, and then it allows for so much more room for freedom and abundance and this soft life that we're looking for without turning it into, well, I'm just protecting my peace and I want to be in my soft girl era, so like buy business, buy goals. I'm not doing any of that. Moving on. Because we can have both. And that's what I think people are missing online. They try to make it seem like you have to have one or the other, but you absolutely don't. And what I'm learning is the softer that I am, because I have such strong boundaries and I know that I'm intentional when I need to be with business or numbers or growth or, focus. What's happening is I'm able to make decisions faster. I tolerate less, and so I'm dealing with less bullshit, and I'm holding myself to a higher standard in life which then trickles into fitness, which then trickles into business. And when I hold myself to a high standard in fitness and business, well, now here we are, have the body brand bank account that I wanted. And it all just came from getting stricter with my boundaries and being more intentional with life, and somehow opened up room for more softness. Not the other way around. And not with just burning it all to the ground and saying no thank you to all of it. So I want you to think about this. Where have you given in a little too much? What standards have you lowered a little bit for other people? What things have you been okay with that you normally wouldn't have been, just because it's the grind, it's the hustle, I gotta do it? What do you need to get better at in terms of boundaries? What new boundaries do you need to implement? What things do you need to say no to allow for more softness in other areas of your life? For more flow, for more intentionality? And what would change if you just freaking trusted yourself more often than not? When we lower our standards a little bit for someone else, or when we fudge our boundaries just a little bit, just this one time, and then it turns into 10 times, and then it turns into all the time. More often than not, it's because we're not trusting ourselves. We're like, are we being too crazy? Is this being mean? Am I being a little too strong on this boundary? Like, should I just let up a little bit? We are not trusting ourselves, which leads us to go against our boundaries and go against our standards. And that's what then leads to this overwhelm, this burnout, and ultimately going into, well, I just want a soft life, so now I have to give everything up. And that is not how it has to be. Set the standard, stick to the standard, be more intentional because you have more time now because of the standards, and then the rest of your life can feel soft and intentional and flowy and amazing, and you can have time for the things that actually matter while you're still moving the needle in your business and in your goals. That's the ultimate goal. Because I'm telling you guys right now, if you have a dysregulated nervous system and you are stressed all the time, and your husband or your kids or your family or your friends are getting the worst of you because you're so burnt out and empty by the end of your day with work or business or whatever goals you're chasing, you are doing it freaking wrong. The entire reason that I'm an entrepreneur is so I can do whatever the hell I want when I want to do it. So if I'm constantly moving around my standards and dropping my standards and doing away with my boundaries to make other people happy, am I really in control of my life or my schedule or my business? No, I'm abso-freaking-lutely not. So what is the point of working your ass off to be an entrepreneur if you're just going to let your life be dictated by others anyway? What if we just had these freaking standards, we were unapologetic about them, we didn't over-explain ourselves, and we said, no, sorry, that's not going to work for me. How about Monday? No, sorry, I'm unavailable at that time. Actually, I don't set aside time for calls for that type of topic. Voice memo me. Or, I'm sorry, I don't take meetings for those types of conversations. Email it. So much of our life would be opened up for intentionality of building relationships and living a better life outside of business if we just stayed strong in our boundaries. So yeah, you can live a soft, flowy, amazing, intentional life while still grinding and hitting your freaking goals and being a badass entrepreneur and a badass businesswoman. I promise you, you can. And in all of 2026, I'm about to show you how, because I am going to do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm just now entering even the want to be in my soft era. I was in my 20s, you guys. The 20s are meant for the grind. That is what I did. Me and my husband both. We were freaking grinding. And that's okay. But now we're in our 30s. We want to start a family. We've got these different goals. And just because we have new goals doesn't mean our old ones fall behind. It just means that now we live a more intentional life and we learn how to be a fully present version of ourselves outside of business and inside business. We can have both. You can have a soft, intentional life. You can be a badass businesswoman. We're going to do it together. And I hope today, even though today's episode was short, I really hope that it started to give you some insight to what you can start doing today to just really get to that point of having more intentionality in the rest of your life. Set those boundaries. Go through all those questions I just asked you. Go back, write them down, answer them yourself, and then implement. That is the only way that you're going to get anything out of this episode, is if you actually implement. And let me tell you, it's uncomfortable. Just the other day, I actually had like an aha moment where I was like, I just stuck to a boundary. And like I said, I've never had a problem with this before, but sometimes, you question yourself. And now that I'm implementing new boundaries and kind of changing the way that I do things, it's going to start to come up a little bit more often. And after that, I was like, okay, girl, that wasn't that hard. You've got this. And then because I set that boundary, later in the week, I saw it pay off. I was like, oh my gosh, because I didn't say yes to that thing, now I have time to do this, and I'm going to be done with work before 7 p.m., and I'm going to get to hang out with Cole. And we're going to have a date night, Very simplistic, a very small little snippet of what this can look like for you. Obviously, this is going to help you on such bigger, trajectories than just a date night with your husband, but also a date night with your husband is not just a date night with your husband. That's an important part of life, an important part of your marriage and staying connected in a relationship. And again, if we're not focusing on those things and those things are falling victim to us having weak boundaries in business and being overwhelmed and overbooked and busy and giving them the worst of us, what's the point? What is the point? I do not care how big of a business you've built if everything inside your four walls are failing. And this, learning how to live a soft life while also being this amazing, incredible, successful entrepreneur and successful woman. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. We are going to go implement, and 2026 is going to be the year that we all have both, okay? Softness without standards is self-sabotage, but softness with boundaries and leadership, you're going to the next level with that, okay? So I love you guys.